I actually think it's really funny when people criticize me for running too low of mileage or say that that's like just not, oh, she could be so much faster if she did it this way. Because my thought is like, I think I'm doing pretty well and I'm injury
Yeah.
free and I'm happy and running is still novel to me and I enjoy it. So kind of just let me do my thing.
This is Early Miles, and I'm Steve Gonzer. On this show, we talk to runners, coaches, clinicians, and thinkers about the moments that shaped how they train, how they think, and how they ended up where they are. Early Miles is ad-free and supported by runners who are members of the RunSmart app. RunSmart is a training platform built by physical therapists. If you have an upcoming race or are looking to train and run smart, you can download the RunSmart app from the App Store or Google Play. And now, today's episode. Felicia Pasadyn didn't take a typical path to the marathon start line. A high school injury led her to focus fully on swimming, eventually taking her to Harvard, Ohio State, and even the Olympic trials in the pool. Running never really disappeared, it just stayed in the background. Over the last few years, Felicia quietly returned to running while moving through medical school, training in ways that looked nothing like the standard marathon path. Somehow, that road led her to the start line of the New York City Marathon with a professional bib. And then, a week before the race, her Achilles swelled up and everything was suddenly in question. To understand how she got there, you have to go back to the beginning, back to Brunswick, Ohio.
So growing up in Brunswick, Ohio, it's about 25 minutes from Cleveland. So that's the main city that we're affiliated with, and it's a classic Ohio suburban town, very sport oriented. I went to a large public high school. We graduated with about 650 kids per class. And my sisters and I have three older sisters. We're all 2 years apart in age. We were very active as children. So I had gotten into swimming and running because they were into swimming and running, and I wanted to be just like them, and then ended up just intrinsically falling in love with both sports myself. And so by the time I was in high school, I was lucky enough to be on my freshman year. I was on the cross country and track team with my sister Vanessa, and then on the swim team with my sisters Vanessa and Cassandra. And so getting to sort of follow in their footsteps and watch their relationship with the sport grow and then see my own relationship with both sports grow was very special. My oldest two sisters ran in college, and then the sister closest in age to me, Cassandra, swam in college. And that, in combination with my own stress fracture injury, led me to then swim in college. But yeah, I do have to say I was a successful high school athlete. I was a state champion 2 times in the 100-yard backstroke. And the year before that, my sister Cassandra had actually won in the same event. So we joke that in our family we had held the title for 3 years.
Nice.
And then I was state podium in running as well.
Yeah, I think we'll talk a little bit about that, but where does it come from? Are your parents athletes? Because usually, you inherit some of these great genes. Because it's hard to find, I guess not so much. Like you'll see parents that are just really athletic, and then they pass those genes on to their kids. Did you get it from your parents, your mom, your dad? Are they going to fight over who you got it from? How did that work?
So my mom played tennis and did swimming in high school, and then my dad did basketball and high jump in high school. Neither of them were college athletes. Both, and self-admittedly, they say both because we didn't really want to and we weren't good enough. So it's kind of a combination of both. But I would say in general, when we were raised, they were extremely active parents and encouraged us to be very active and made a lot of sacrifices to help us get to sport. So I think more than it being genetic, it was like just the household I grew up in was one where it was so supported and encouraged to pour a lot into athletics.
Was there a piece of this of like healthy competition? How did it work with your sisters? You're competing in the same events as them, you mentioned, right? So like, how did that work?
A lot of healthy competition. Like I remember running interval workouts with my sister Vanessa because our 5Ks were so similar that then when we would hit 800s or 1000s at that pace, we could literally be running buddies and hit our watches and encourage each other. And at the time, I was slower than my sister Cassandra in high school. I mean, I was younger than her, and she had a fantastic swim career. But getting to see her trajectory and watch her blossom, I think really excited me. So yeah, there was always a good level of healthy competition, and I would say we supported each other a ton. We weren't very arguey or catty type sisters.
Okay. Do you guys still, you guys are all home for the holidays. Are you guys going out for runs at all together? Or how does that work? Is it game night and then the competition shines, or what happens there?
Well, both, honestly. So we have something called the Great Christmas Run and the Great
Okay.
New Year's Run, where because all the gyms are closed on Christmas Day and New Year's Day, we'll go to our local metro parks and run around the lake and just sometimes we do like a take an ornament, leave an ornament, like by the
Hmm.
trees, and just have a fun time being moving our bodies in a way we love. So yes, that's something we all still bond over. And then as far as like game night, it's funny because I would say for that we might be more competitive in apples to apples than we are when we're running with each other.
Yeah. The fun runs that you guys do, is anyone like trying to test each other out, or is it truly like, no, we're just gonna chill, we're gonna have a good time, or does someone start creeping out, and how does that work?
No, no. To be fair, I don't think my sisters would be having a fun time if I tried to make it into a threshold workout.
Mm.
So we go at talking pace.
Gotcha, gotcha. That's usually how it starts, but I know like if I was going out with my siblings and none of them
Mhm.
run, but inherently I would just make them hurt a little bit during it. So I didn't know if that was coming out.
Like, would you just kind of throw that in at the end or like a middle test to see if they could keep up with you?
Yeah, I'd have to feel them out. I'd see when they're hurting a little bit, put a little move on,
Twist the
or
knife when it's
yeah, yeah.
hurting.
Or the interesting thing, which this is kind of rude, but like if you're running with somebody and you're not out of breath and they're dogging it and you're like trying to talk to them and eventually they just tell you, can you please stop talking? So like you kind of show your fitness by like, chatting them up and they're gasping. I would do that to my family as well.
Just rubbing it in. I'm more
Yeah.
fit than you.
Yeah. I mean, it goes both ways. I have friends that'll do it to me too. I'm like, you gotta stop talking.
That's
I want to show something and just bring up something from high school, which you should see
hmm
here. So
Yes.
explain these two photos. So the one on your left is with your sister, right?
Yes.
And this is, can you explain what's going on here?
So the photo on the left was at Canton, Ohio's natatorium. It was our state meet, my sister Cassandra's senior year, my sophomore year of high school. And what we're doing there is biting the medals we had won at the meet. I had won fifth place in the 200 individual medley, and she had won state champion number one in the 100-yard backstroke. And that was just such an amazing moment. I don't think we'll ever forget, different events, but we were on the state podium that
Yeah.
year.
That's
hmm
awesome. And then, how far apart are these two photos? So, if people are listening, we have a swim photo on the left, biting medals with her sister, and then you have a cross country photo on the right, where you. I know you. We'll talk about this in a second. You had to step out of running due to injury, and you focus more on swimming. But are these
hmm
photos relatively the same timeline, or is this after you've maybe kind of broke up with running for a little bit?
No, this is the same timeline. So the photo of me in the cross country outfit would have been just the fall before the winter of me in the swimsuit. So similar ages here. Because
Hmm.
I was a three-sport athlete all the way up, then senior year I decided not to do track. But otherwise I had competed cross country, swimming, track, cross country, swimming, track, cross country, swimming, track all the way through. That photo was at our high school state championship.
Nice.
And yeah, that was a good meet too. I think I'd gotten what a big award at the time that I always had my mind on was getting all Ohio, which just means I want to say it was top 18 in the state. The number might have changed now, might be
Hmm.
24 now, but at the time believe I had received all Ohio and was very excited about that.
Gotcha. So there was a time I think that I heard. Did you end up? You said you left track to focus more
Yeah.
on swimming.
hmm
So was that injury related or was just like a business decision like, hey, I can, there's a huge opportunity over here. I'm gonna go over and focus on swimming.
It was both because my junior year of high school in the cross country season, I had gotten a fourth metatarsal fracture, and then tried to compete and was had a decent start to my track season my junior year, but then had a stress reaction in that same tibia because I think of muscular atrophy of the
Hmm.
left leg. And then my senior year of cross country, also successful. Like I was going under 18 minutes in my 5Ks, but I ran into even further injury. So by the time senior track came along, not only was I worried that I'd get another injury, but I was also at that time had made a new goal to make Olympic trials in swimming. And I
Hmm.
wanted to go full force with swimming and do hit my doubles every single day. And instead of going to track practice after school, I'd go to swim practice. And yeah, I mean, I did. It ended up working out as a business decision because I did qualify for the Olympic trials. I ended up receiving my goal in 5 events in swimming.
Oh, nice. So I'm curious on this from like I'll see this as a physical therapist all the time. Like swimming and running, they don't mix a ton. And what I generally find is when you're a swimmer, you develop this huge aerobic engine. Your fitness is so high, so your engine's high, but maybe your dry land, like isn't on par, or you're not getting that impact. So when you try to do that, you almost have this heart and lungs, which is just too much horsepower for the frame, which is your body, and then you start to have these running related injuries. Do you think that played in at all as far as your ability to stay injury free in running because of the swimming, or do you think that was not at play?
It could have been. Like, for example, a young high schooler might tell their coach, I can't do these miles because they're not actually in shape. And so that's kind of a natural way for injury prevention because they're not in cardiovascular shape for it. But you're right that for me, I never once said, oh, I can't finish this practice because my heart and lungs couldn't do it. It was because I was having like actual pain in the wake of that initial metatarsal injury. So that could be a component. I think, though, the main thing was just being like a 16-year-old girl with probably low bone density, still growing at the time. It was just kind of a setup to lead to injury. And I think at the time, too, I wasn't so good at verbalizing my boundaries yet. So sometimes I would say to my coach, like, I can't run on Sundays, but I would still just will myself through Monday, Wednesday intervals, even sometimes when things were hurting. And now I know better than that, and I self-coach, and I don't run on days I feel injured. But, you're young, and you just kind of want to listen to the authority figure and be there for your team. So I think that was a big part of it, too.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, like, you see these trends throughout running that I see from, like, the injury side, and I'll see that in, like, the younger population. They swim super fit. Running's not tolerated a ton, especially I'm in Buffalo, New York, which isn't far from you. And like a lot of the kids are running in like those marble hallways, like through the winter. I don't know if you guys did that, or were you always outside?
No, sometimes we did, but it's terrible for the joints. You're doing lap after lap after,
And all the turnarounds are just cranking on the shin. But where I'm going with this is I'll see it a lot in adult athletes as well. So like you'll see even at the professional level, they'll get like a stress reaction and then they just hammer the bike. They get in the pool and they develop this huge aerobic engine, and then they go out again, 8 weeks later after the fracture's healed, and their heart and lungs are like, just go. And, their knees haven't been exposed to impact. So you can see this kind of still happen, even at a very high level. I know some elite women who had stress reactions went onto the bike and they just did super hard bike workouts. They did hard swim workouts and they came back and they still struggled. So it's interesting just because like the sport, the specificity, right, of exercise is very specific. Like a wide receiver will train different than a lineman for a specific reason. And something as simple as, endurance sports like swimming and running can have completely different needs.
Yeah.
And I see that conflict a lot. I'll see it with like dancers as well. Like they're up on their toes all the time. Their ankles they're really fit, they're flexible, they're strong, but their ankles are all, super tight from being on their toes. And then they try to run in cross country and it beats them up. But it does happen, throughout lifespan. So it's something that I see a lot.
Yeah, no, and I was trying to be super cognizant of that when I made my swimming to running transition in 2023. And that's even still why I have a 4-day-a-week running plan and never more days than that, is because I know for a fact that my heart and lungs could tolerate probably 110 miles a week. But can my joints? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I haven't even crossed that bridge.
Yeah.
And I've been injury free for the most part since that stress fracture all the way back in 2017. So
yeah, that's me knocking on wood for you. So
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not superstitious, but thank you anyway.
All right. So I wanna keep moving. We're gonna talk about your training and getting ready in New York and all that, but I want to kind of jump in. You're leaving high school, you went to Harvard. And talk about that transition. You swam for Harvard. And I want to show this photo because you went from Harvard to Ohio State, right? So maybe talk about that transition. And I have a couple photos pulled up, but we'll talk about those in a minute. How did it, you continue to swim at Harvard? Did you run? What happened with swimming at Harvard? How did that go?
So every year that I swam for Harvard, I did better and better. None of my personal records by the time I left Harvard were still from high school. I definitely had what I would consider a very successful college career. And it's pretty rare to have like big groups, or not often does Harvard send individual swimmers to the NCAA championship because we are a mid-major conference. But I was able to qualify for NCAAs in all three of my events, all of the years that I swam for Harvard. So in my opinion, it was a very successful career. I by no means did my want to graduate in 3 years have anything to do with not liking the institution or not liking the swim team, because honestly those were my best of friends, and I still talk with my coaches. I mean, they are mentors to me, and I have nothing but positive things to say about the program. But at the end of the day, I wanted to get a master's degree before medical school and also find a program that would pay for that, because Ivy Leagues don't offer athletic scholarship and Big Tens do. So it was both a financial and a career decision, more so with the mentality of pre-med down the path, rather than it being like, oh, I don't want to swim for Harvard anymore.
Yeah, did you go into Harvard looking pre-med and knowing that was going to be a transition? Okay.
Yes, exactly. So that was a big pull to go to academically challenging institution, was that I wanted to become the smartest version of myself and before I became a doctor. So that's kind of why I had chosen that school as well, in addition to loving the team when I went and on my recruit trip there, of course. And then to your question about what did my running look like at Harvard, I ran 1 to 2 times a week, but not enough mileage to diminish the strength gains I was making in the weight room, because strength training is so important for everyone, especially runners, but really in swimming, man, that power off the wall, those power off the blocks, you can picture why it's so important to be pretty sturdy and strong for swimming. So I run 1 to 2 times a week, exploring the Charles River, Fresh Pond, areas around Boston. And that was truly just because I loved it, not for really any other reason.
And then you went to Ohio State after that. So that was, can you recap again? You went to Ohio State, you made that transition to get ready for going to med school.
Yep. So that year for me was 3 things were happening. Number one, I was getting a bioethics master's degree, which is in a specific area of interest that I had fallen in love with after I had done a research project in the ethics of clinical trial guidelines ending. And so then I was also interviewing for medical school at the time. And then the third thing was I was finishing my collegiate swim career, because I actually had 2 more years of eligibility. I only ended up using 1 of them. But I ended my career completely on a high note. I crushed all of my best times, even from when I was at Harvard, and ended the highest place I'd ever gotten at NCAAs. Our team did very, very well. I think 7th or 6th.
Is that what these photos are from?
So the one on the left was my senior year. Harvard won an Ivy League championship. And then the one on the right was an individual, my only and first ever Big Ten championship in the 400 IM, which was my best event at Ohio State.
And then I think I heard, did you competed against some Olympians at some point? Is that correct?
Yes. So in the 400 IM, the long course summer national meet, which would have been that first summer I was doing my bioethics master's degree, and I was first affiliated with Ohio State, I competed in a 400 IM, and at finals, it was a stacked heat, and I only ended up getting third to Katie Ledecky and Leah Smith, 2 Olympians. And that was a very exciting event. There's even a moment, I will say, in the first 50 butterfly, which is one of my best strokes, I was, in fact, ahead of both of them. So my cousins and extended family took a screenshot of that and said, Felicia beat Katie Ledecky. And I like to say, we don't have to worry about what happened actually in the race. Just know that for a moment I was beating her.
Yeah, I mean, they're tall too, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my body type was not one meant for swimming. Let's be honest. Going on the podium next to those 2 girls, because it was top 3 make podium, talking to them, I felt like it was just looking straight up. But I did the best I could, and it was still a great career.
Yeah, I think it speaks to, you developed it through high school. I think there's an inherent talent just that you inherited from your parents, so you can thank them on this holiday week. But because you didn't fit that mold. You look at Olympian swimmers, they're long, they're lanky, and they can glide far. So I think it speaks to your engine, of just how big it was. It sounds like you're one of 2 things: set up because you have a good runner's build for either that, and with your swimming background, triathlon. So I don't know, if that's ever going to show its face, but it seems like you're stacked. You have all the cards kind of and chips pushed into that kind of one of 2 endurance sports.
Yeah, definitely built for like I feel like I probably have a lot of those type 1 muscle fibers where it's very aerobic, and I definitely have that background. Being 5'4.5", I think that's great for running, not so great for swimming, given that a lot of my competitors at NCAAs were up way above 5'9", honestly.
Yeah.
And then to the point about the triathlons, I get that question a lot, but to
Hmm.
tell you the honest truth, I'm very scared of road biking. 1/3 of emergency neurosurgeries at NYU, which has been my primary medical school training, are a biker, on a
Yeah.
biker. So I just feel like I have too much to lose, and I think it might be foolish for me to get on the bike and then injure myself.
Yeah, I completely understand that. So I've done 2 Ironmans in the past, and one of my biggest things going back to it is really just getting tagged by a car because so
Mm-hmm.
many things happen. I crashed a couple times in road races and things, and then like what I'm seeing a lot of people doing is just showing up on a race day and they're riding in their basement. And I don't know, have you seen the simulators that are out now for like riding a
Yeah,
bike?
like Zwift. People
Yeah.
are telling me, "Oh, you should get a Zwift." Everyone's telling me this, and I'm like, I don't even know what a Zwift is.
Yeah, so I'm probably gonna butcher it, but it's basically you hook your bike up and it's like virtual riding and just you're
Hmm.
in a virtual world and it changes the resistance based on if you're climbing or not, and then you race
Hmm.
people and you can get behind them, you can ride. Someone's probably gonna come on here and just completely correct me, but it's like virtual riding. And the people that I know, like you're probably similar to me right now, which is it's like dark all day and you
Yeah.
get no sunlight. And then when it's quote unquote sunlight, it's filtered through like 4 layers of clouds, but the daylight's even hard to get. So the people that I know are just riding in their basement for that reason. And the cars out there are just crazy right now and trying not to get tagged.
Yeah, yeah. And just from a very practical standpoint, honestly, signing up for a road race for like 800 reasons is just so much easier than signing up for a triathlon.
Hmm.
Like the availability, the cost of the bike and the wetsuit and all that, to be near a body of water, you need all of that for this one. But this one, you need a pair of shoes and a weekend where there's a race, which is a lot of the
Yeah.
weekends. So I don't know if you ever felt like that difference too in your like Ironmaning versus just running.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, as I've gotten older and had kids and things, it's a time issue for sure. Like
Hmm.
if you're going to do an Ironman, you want to do it well, right? Like you're putting in long, long rides. So me telling my wife at this point with 2 young kids, hey, I'm going to go out for 6 hours on my bike on Saturday morning. You're going to
Yeah,
take them
it's
all to
not
the
a good.
practices. You're going to do all this.
Right.
So we're not doing that. That's a business
Hmm.
decision as well. But it's that, and then honestly, the running is just so easy. You walk out
Yeah,
the door and
and
you
boom.
can just go. And I don't
Hmm.
mind a treadmill, so like that's fine for me
Me neither.
too.
Yeah.
So it's just so much easier.
Yeah, agreed.
So what I want to talk about is kind of moving away. So talk to me. You're done with Ohio State. You're going to New York City. This is where
Hmm.
you're doing all your med school, right?
Yes.
So let's just talk about that a little bit. I'm interested in like when did the running bug get going again? I know you ran Cleveland half and you did some things and you're like, oh my God, I'm actually probably pretty decent at this, which you
Hmm.
you probably knew. But um, when did you start getting back into running as like a regular thing?
Well, I never stopped running. I probably ran at least 1 to 2 times a week my entire life.
Hmm.
Truly, even when I was a collegiate swimmer and even with all the hours we put in at Ohio State, I would still run 1 to 2 times a week. So I did have a base that I never lost. But when NCAAs ended, when I competed at Ohio State March something of 2023, I knew in my mind I wanted to sign up for the Cleveland Half Marathon because I just thought that'd be a fun next goal to do. And I just love competing. I love having something to train for. So I thought this will be great. So that day I started really running instead of just, oh, I'm running and exploring the Olentangy Trail on Ohio State's campus. I ran at the hotel for NCAAs for swimming, like hard, like threshold, like get my heart rate up. And then decided I'd run every other day and then cross train on the off days until the half. And when I ran my first half in a 120 at the Cleveland half, I was very excited about it and decided that wherever I went to med school, which at that point I think I knew I was going to NYU at that point. I wanted to do one road race every 3 months. That was like my next idea.
Yeah. So when you signed up for Cleveland, was it a training plan or was it like, no, I'm just gonna do a little bit more, do some long runs, or did you have like a structured training that you were kind of self coaching through?
Yeah, I have a I always coach myself off a Google document that's 7 of the days of the week and then infinite number of rows. And I'd log everything I was doing, including intervals, whether it was hill, progression, run, tempo, and all of my cross training as well. And then I would just kind of look up what taper should look like the 2 weeks before and corroborate that with how I train, with what some of the research shows about tapering and percentage cuts. And then
Hmm.
since it went so well, I just thought I'll keep doing this, but maybe take it to the next level. Like for the next half or full that I want to do, I'll increase mileage a bit more, or try to go at faster paces, or do 2 hours in the Stairmaster instead of one. And that's
Hmm.
exactly what I did.
Yeah, and it just worked.
Yeah,
Did
it
you?
did. It really did.
I'm really interested in the Stairmaster side because I know you've this is kind of like what catapulted a whole bunch of things on the internet and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get there, but I wanna like your training structure in that first. Like, are you doing builds and recoveries? Are you just up and holding at a certain amount because you're only running 4 days a week?
Hmm.
How does that look? How do you think about that when you started? And then we'll talk maybe about it as we get more towards New York.
Yeah, because I knew that I had a 13.1 mile race and was only running 4 days a week, I knew every day had to be hard because my run day should definitely be hard since you're only running 4 days a week. And my off days, it's like, well, these are your building my pseudo building mileage days. So I would just be going like ham on my cycle intervals or on the Stairmaster or in the weight room. So that's just how I set up my training. I don't really take like down weeks, rest days. I don't do that.
The so hard days on the running, the cross training days were also hard, or were those more like steady state aerobic, or how did can you say that again?
So steady state aerobic, yes, heart rate still above like 125, and then I would throw in some harder intensities, such as doing like every third song go all out for that whole song if I'm cycling. And then or if I was Stairmaster, the last half hour of my Stairmaster session, I'd go every minute and a half, 30 seconds max out the Stairmaster to the
Hmm.
highest level, and I'm running. I'm running, running, running.
Gotcha. So one of the things that always comes up when I talk to athletes is like heart rate and comparing my heart rate to your heart rate. When you said you're in the 120s, do you know your zones, or do you kind of know how each tenth or 10 beats of heart rate change, or are you like, no, I know like 125 is like zone 2 and zone 5 is XYZ? How are you managing that?
I just kind of know my zone 2 versus zone 3 effort, and I try to keep my cross training like in that almost changing to zone 3, because I just think
Okay.
the more
Okay. So
the
you
more
do
work.
the what's that?
Mhm. I was just thinking the more work I do above zone 2, the better off I am.
I mean, yeah, it's working. So,
Yeah, exactly.
and then through this, you're still strength training, right? So that's all
Yeah.
part of this.
Hmm.
I'm really interested in the strength training side because that's where most of my work has been done. Are you strength training for running? Are you strength
Yeah.
training for fitness? Okay, so talk me through like
For
what that looks
for
like for you.
Exactly, yeah. For running and for injury prevention. So what I do is like 2 lower body lifts a week, 2 upper body lifts a week, 2 full body lifts where that one's more compound movement
Hmm.
oriented. And then one day I won't strength train and I'll just do core. But I do generally try to do functional core a little bit every day. And the lower body lift days, I would say, are my most injury prevention ones and less for aesthetic or less for building speed. Like, for example, I might put a dumbbell beneath my heels when I do my squats if I know that the next thing I'm training for is like down has a lot of downhills because I want to protect my knees.
Hmm.
So I really try to use like what I know about exercise physiology to curate my strength training plans. I used to, for example, do a lot of everything was bilateral, like my squats and my leg press. And now I try to do more one legged things like Bulgarians and single leg RDLs or split squats because at the end of the day, running is you're only on one foot at a time.
Hmm.
So you need to isolate the muscles. And then yeah, like even just doing weighted calf raises, to me, that's like, okay, I'm preventing shin splints, or, I'm making sure I'm strengthening my Achilles tendon. And all the core I do, especially my weighted core, I'm thinking, all right, I'm preventing back pain.
Yeah.
So that's how I view my strength training.
Do you are you familiar with like open chain versus closed chain exercise?
No.
No. Sorry.
I'm
It's
just
basically what you're saying.
not.
So, there's obviously, I think it's been pretty much, people have moved past it, but like open chain would be like clamshells, leg lifts, hamstring curls, things where your foot's off the ground. And we talked about like specificity of sport earlier, which is you really need to train the body the way it's going to do the activity, which is what you're doing. So pushing people to single leg, working on compound movements. One of the things that we'll always push towards, or I will when I'm working with athletes, is even like isolating a calf raise. Like it's great just to add it to a squat or do it at the top of a lateral step up. And then generally what we'll try to do, and I don't know if you're doing this already and you can speak to it, is like a lot of the strength aids will be moving lateral or using rotation, because so much of the forward movement is already taken up in Stairmaster, cycling, running. It's all sagittal. So are you focusing on those lateral movements? You're doing single leg, but are you mostly moving sideways, or how do you do that?
I have more recently gotten into a lot of more rotational things because I just think that core is so important. As to how often am I moving laterally, probably not that often, to be honest.
Do you find like a strength side? Are you doing like lateral lunge? Are you doing like what we call like a speed skater, where you're reaching down and across, or
No.
not so much? Yeah.
No, I also, because to tell you the honest truth, this one's going to be a silly reason, but I just don't like skaters and lateral lunges as much as I like some of my other exercises that I've mentioned. And I won't really do a strength training routine if it's filled with exercises that I don't jive with, just from a joy perspective. Because the most sustainable thing for me is building strength training exercises that are functional for running and injury prevention, but that I also just genuinely love. Like, I don't need to bicep curl for running, but I do because I just really like them.
Sure. Okay. So you mentioned elevating the heels for downhill, and I think you ran Revel White Mountains Marathon, right? That was your first one?
Yes. With the first 8 miles of that one was downhill, so that's why I was hitting quads so hard, like the 3 months before that marathon.
So I'm interested on how did that go and how you felt? Because it's actually, which is crazy, because I think Boston added like buffers to those now. Are you aware?
Yeah, Boston did, like, all of a sudden realized Revel courses were kind of quick. And I knew that it was like a little bit of a fast course, but I was just staying quiet about it.
I've run one of those in locally here, and it was probably the worst I've ever felt after a race. It had like a 10K descent. You lost a lot of elevation. How did you feel after that? Because I'm thinking of like, you're running, you're doing 4 days a week running, but even like the Stairmaster, there's no downhill to it, right? So did you notice that it didn't carry over well? Were you extra sore after that? How did the downhill treat you?
So, it's really hard to parse the confounding variables of base mileage and just number of days that I've done long runs helping me be less sore after Boston and New York versus the first, or whether it was the course, right? Like, I'll never know, but guaranteed I was the most sore for the most number of days and in an extreme pain cave the first marathon as opposed to my other two. But I'll never know, right? Because this wasn't a controlled experiment.
Yeah, I mean, like, I get that, but I think there's from my standpoint, there's enough research that like eccentrics, or the eccentric activity, which is running downhill, is what tears people up the most. Like if you're gonna get the muscle most stressed, it's under eccentric load. If I was a betting person, I'd probably say that downhill probably torched you the most. Like, but that's what I think.
I'm sure it did, because I can definitely say I was extremely sore after.
Yeah.
Like,
How long did that take to recover?
Well, I don't know. I did like 2 hours on the elliptical the day after to like just work through the soreness. And then I was on the Stairmaster like the 2 days after. So maybe it took like 4 days.
Nice. What's interesting is you did that one, and that was your slowest, and it was the fastest course, right? So then you went to Boston, you ran 2:44.
Yeah.
And then once you ran that 2:44, Boston is not an easy course. Is that how you got into like a New York pro field with running a 2:44? How did that work?
So, actually, the reason I got into the pro field was New York Roadrunners tends to host a lot of races throughout the year, and my 244 alone would not have gotten me into the pro
Hmm.
field. I do want to make that clear. But I did this 10K called the Greta's Gallop 10K in, I think, August of this past year, and won a 32:57, and had been winning quite a few of the local NYRR races all along. And the pro people reached out to me and said, "Hey, we know that you went that like kind of like not in so many words, slower 244 in Boston, but we think you're going to be way faster in New York. Would you like to run in the pro field given your 10K performance?" And I was really intimidated when I first got that email because I thought, look at the pros PRs, they're way faster than me. I'm going to
Yeah.
be like slogging it alone. I was really worried. But that worry lasted for like 7 seconds, and then by the eighth second, I think I was super excited because I
Sure.
thought, I know myself, and I'm just gonna eat it up and end up really loving being in the pro field, and I'm gonna go faster because of it. And I truly do think that that's what happened.
Nice. So between your first marathon or even your first half and training for New York, was it very similar structure and just compounding with consistency over time that you feel like got there, or were you tweaking things? Like how did you evolve training from first to New York?
I doubled the number of days I was strength training, so it went from 3 days a week to 6 days a week. That's one big change. Another big change was every afternoon I'd walk 5 miles as like a passive double, like passive triple basically, because every morning I was already doubling workouts. And then the final piece is everything I had done for my first half and first full, I would just add like another half hour of work. So add on like 3 more miles or 30 more minutes of Stairmaster. So just upping intensity in every single way. And then the final one is getting even more sleep. So instead of 8.5, got 10.
Hmm. What time does that put you to bed at?
When I am working early clinical shifts and have to work out at 4:15, I go to bed at 7.
Okay. Are you doing anything for like sleep tracking? Are you like wearing an Aura ring or a Whoop or anything like that?
I recently graduated from the Oura Ring because I think it was making me a bit problematically married
Like,
to my sleep. But I that whole time for New York was and Boston was using an Oura Ring to track my sleep. Yes.
yeah, I'm interested. Did you like? So I wear a Whoop, and I'm just constantly like running experiments on myself. Did you find yourself
hmm
doing that as well? Like if I do this before bed or that before bed, or were you just putting it on and seeing what happened and looking at it?
I didn't never had to do self experiments because I'm a really good sleeper. So anything, doesn't matter what I'm doing before bed, when my head hits the pillow after a day where I worked out for 2.5 hours, was on a clinical shift for 10 hours, studied a little bit, called my family and went right to bed. Like my head hits the pillow and I'm out. So I wasn't really doing that as so much as if there were multiple days where I got less than 9 hours, I would say like this weekend I have to get 10 or 11. And the thing is, I would without even trying. So yes, I self-experiment or I used the Aura data somewhat, but it was just more like an affirmation of what I was already planning on doing, I guess.
Gotcha. So you get more sleep. You kind of altered your training a little bit. You get ready for New York, and I
Mhm.
read that you had a little bit of an Achilles thing pop up like the week before. Is that true? All right. So there's always like I always call them phantom taper pains, like where you're in taper and you're like, oh my God, everything's starting to hurt. And oh my God, I'm injured. And you start getting in your own head. So talk me through that week. Was it, was it something that you were like, oh no, this is going to go horribly wrong? You're like, no, I'll be okay. I'm just going to, back off, or what happened during that week?
Yeah, so I learned it was definitely not a phantom taper pain. I actually still have right Achilles swelling, like right now. If someone were to palpate the right versus the left, there would be swelling. So it definitely was not in my head. The Sunday before, I started noticing that on my clinical shift standing for 11 hours because that was a month where I was working like 6 11-hour hospital shifts
Hmm.
on top of the fact that every morning from 4 to 6:45 a.m. I was like working out very intensely. The standing was not helping at all on the inpatient wards, so I developed this injury. And on Tuesday, I took like part of the day to go to 3 different appointments: a chiro, a PT, and an ortho. And the ortho had called it Achilles tendinosis with a fusiform swelling. And you could feel it too. It felt like a thin tapered line, and then a bulb, and then it kept going.
Hmm.
And I was very nervous because of how ballooned and how painful my foot was. But something inside of me was like, you've trained too much to the 5 days before have a problem. So I just decided to shut it down and not run basically all the days leading up to the marathon. And my parents were quite nervous. They were like, what if you get to the start line and it's hurting? What if you don't make it to the start line? What if? And I just said, no what ifs. I'll do it. Just don't ask me how. I don't know how, but I'll do it.
Yeah, I'm sure they're probably used to that response because, like, it's not like you probably worked through things in the past, and obviously you're very, type A. You're going to get stuff done. So I had imagine they kind of knew you were going to at least try, regardless, right?
Yes, yeah. And I kind of said to myself, I'm going to will this away. And I know that's not how injuries work, but I'm going to will it away, as in put it out of my mind for the day and then just manage it after. And yeah, it was super sore the week after, and is like a part of the reason why I recently took a 2-week running break. So it's still kind of hanging around. Achilles tendinosis doesn't just go away, but I fought through the morning of. I think I had like Voltaren gel, lidocaine patches, KT tape. I was on oral meloxicam. I went and saw like a massage person the day before. I saw the chiro the morning of. So I was throwing everything at it.
Yeah. Where is it at right now? So you mentioned it's still sore. Are you like, are you limping out of bed in the morning at this point? If you sit for too long, you're getting up and hobbling a little bit? Where is it at?
It's much better. I've been really diligent about doing PT and isolated exercises. I'm up to like weighted calf raises with no pain. The only thing that hurts it now is just the physical palpation on the Achilles
The pinch
tendon,
test.
Yeah, exactly. No, not medially, laterally, actually, just physically palpating it like on the exact tendon, like side to side doesn't hurt anymore, which is great. So I've sort of graduated these steps of PT, and I think it's getting better. So now I'm just back to my 4-day-a-week running plan and just being careful with it.
Yeah, I'm curious on the running side, because so much of this is what I work with is, do you have to get going to feel good, or is it like a lot of times, like I talk to runners, like every step I'm like, how's my Achilles? So the whole time they're just thinking about it, and it's kind of like messing with them a little bit. Or do you feel like it needs to warm up and then it's good, or is it sore after? Or are you like, no, as long as I don't poke it, I'm pretty good?
Now I'm at, as long as I don't poke it, it feels good.
Gotcha.
Before it was just as the run went on, it would get worse, which is like tough because that's usually more of a warning sign, red flag sign of an injury than like, oh, tightness where it gets better as it goes. Yeah, but it's better now.
Yeah. Are you progressing to like eccentrics in PT yet, where you're just doing like the slow lowers, like the heel drops?
Yeah, exactly. Nice.
So that's good. So just kind of, you get through that, you get to New York, never been part of a pro field. So what does that look like? You obviously have staging areas and things. Do you have to take the ferry over when you're in the pro field, or do they ship you to the front?
We had a special, like I stayed in the hotel the night before with all the pros, and then had like the breakfast, and then they do a final call at breakfast, and they take us on a bus right to this little breezeway track where the chiro people are and the PT people. If you want a massage, you can warm up. All like the Morton Gel snacks. We were treated so nicely that morning, and then bussed right to the start line, like only a few steps to the start line. And then, yeah, it was maybe a big adjustment, because right, everything I'm saying sounds like a dream compared to like someone who's in a normal start. An adjustment would be like all of the announcers and cameras and ESPN filming people on the start line. Luckily, they weren't in my face because no one even knew I was running the pro field. They were in like Helen O'Beary's face and Fiona O'Keefe and more established pros. But it did occur to me like, wow, I'm competing against women who are the world's best. And so that was an incredible feeling.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of, I don't know, have you seen like the horror stories of that start? If like you're on the bottom bridge, like there's two layers to the bridge. You can look it up, but apparently there's a lot of bathroom breaks on the top bridge. And if you're on the bottom bridge, it's not the most greatest experience from what I've heard.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah. One of the things, so that gun goes off, like, how did that race go for you? I know the watch ended up dying at some point. Did you run your own race from the start? I know you found yourself in no man's land. I saw some of the photos too. It looked like that. So how did that start? How did it go in the middle? What happened when the watch died? How did that race go?
So the attention seeker in me thought, what if I just sprinted 800 meters to be with the pros and on
Hmm.
camera and then like just died the ladder 25 miles? But I'm just joking. I didn't actually want to run it that way. I wanted to run around 6:05 pace because I figured that'd get me under 2:40, which was my goal.
Hmm.
And when the pros went off, I just let the real pros, as I like to say, just go because their first mile was already way faster than I had planned. I think they probably started out around 5:45, which was never going to be sustainable for me.
Hmm.
And there were luckily these two other local, quick, very quick local girls who, again, had sort of been asked as like a wink wink from NYRR, like, we know you're locally very good and maybe not otherwise have been asked to be in the pro field, but we're asking you out of courtesy. Those two girls on the first mile told me, like I kind of said, hey, like, gals, what pace are we gonna go? Because I'm thinking, I'll just go the pace of these girls out of not wanting to be in no man's land, even if it's a little off my race plan. So
Hmm.
when they said 6 minute, I thought, okay, I'll stay with them as long as I possibly can. And then if I have to fall off because I ran a ballsy race, then it's okay. But I was feeling so good hitting 5:58s with these two local girls. And then around mile 15, watch dies, have no idea what I'm going. And then around mile 20, I just separated from them eventually because I was feeling really good. And I didn't know what pace we were going anymore. And I didn't bother to ask the girls. But I just thought I'm going to go for this last 10K as fast as I possibly can in case I'm near the 2:37 barrier.
So you
So I'm
came,
glad I did that.
yeah. So like that first 18, 20, are you like, oh my God, this is going amazing? Are you working through dark spots where you're like, what am I doing? Or are you working through low patches or you're like, oh my God, this is going amazing?
No, I was like, I'm feeling it. I don't feel amazing,
Yeah.
but I just was mentally tough enough that I could drop like a little mini hammer by the last 5 miles. Like I kind of felt like I had that inside of me. But New York is a brutal course, so I don't think
Hmm.
anyone is feeling amazing on mile 17. I mean, maybe, actually, maybe. So I don't want to say that other people weren't, but I wouldn't say I was like a 10 out of 10. I felt like a normal 5 or 6 out of 10, but that with enough grit, I could just sprint the last 3 or 4 miles.
Yeah. I run New York many years ago, and my favorite part of that entire course is you come up and you start running up Queensboro,
Mm-hmm.
and you have the crowd behind you and it's super loud. Like the whole course is just so loud.
Yeah.
As someone who gets overstimulated by noise, it's a lot. But you go up Queensboro and it just goes to like silent of breathing, of no crowd, footsteps. And then you crest that bridge and
Mm-hmm.
you come down on towards Fifth Ave and it's just like 10 people deep. And you get this huge surge of people when you make that right turn. That is like
Yeah.
by far just always stuck out to me in that race. I love that spot. When you started getting into like I'm not feeling comfortable, but I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
try to drop it. Like, what are you doing mentally for that to kind of push on? I mean, obviously you've been uncomfortable in many events. Do you have something that you go to that you think of like, oh, you just tell yourself to suck it up, or what are you thinking about when it starts to be like, this isn't comfortable?
Well, luckily for me, mile 17 and 18, I want to say I had like a few friends from medical school, separate groups that told me they were going to be around there. Some of my family members had flown all the way and said they were going to be around 17 and a half or 18. And then a few of my friends from Jersey City, some groups of my club teammates called 212 Athletic, the club team I belong to in the city. So I will say there were maybe 7 different groups of people that I could physically make eye contact with between miles 17 and 19 to get me through, like externally. But in terms of between those intrinsically, it's just like positive self talk. Like, you look good, you feel good, you've worked so hard, you've done stuff like this a billion times. Remember that 3 hour
Hmm.
Stairmaster? This is way easier. Like, even if it's a bit of like almost gaslighting yourself, I'm just like pumping myself up. That's where my brain goes.
Yeah. It's interesting because like I think of like every big race. So I'm never out in no man's land. I think when I did New York, it took me to mile like 20 to get like breathing room. So like
Oh,
finding
right.
family in those
Yeah.
crowds is like that's crazy. Like to even just
Hmm.
be able to find your family. So I know that finish is pretty iconic. There's a ton of walking afterwards, but you had no idea what you were going to finish at, right? Or were you getting
Yeah.
anything from the course, or you had no
Nope.
idea?
I had no
So
clue.
yeah, so you come up and the finish there this year was amazing with the men. Um,
Hmm.
but you come up and you come through. So what are you thinking? You ran 2:35. What's going through your head at that point?
Just complete disbelief. I was super confused because when I crossed the finish line, it said 2:05 teens. And I'm thinking 2:05. Okay, so now I have no concept
That
of
was
my
really
time.
fast.
Yeah, because I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Well, little did I realize, unfortunately, that the timer at the finish, they started switching it to the men's time because they presumed the men were coming imminently after this range. And the men had started exactly 30 minutes after us. So that's what afterwards I clocked that meant 2:05 plus 30 equals 2:35. But I actually had to ask one of the NYRR chief of staff, which is one of my teammates on 2-on-2 Athletic. I had to ask him what my time was because I was so confused. And then he went unofficially 2:35. And I thought, okay, if unofficial is 2:35, let's say even a little buffer means 2:36, like I'm good to go. So once I heard that confirmation from him, like someone not running the race who just knew that there was a running clock, I knew I made trials. And I thought, all right, well, I don't have to do that March marathon I was going to do to try to make trials. So
Yeah, when you come through, so I have this mindset of like, it's probably not the best mindset when I do something. I'm like, oh, I did what I was supposed to do. I don't like, I'm more upset when I'm more upset about failing than when I win. I'm like, well, whatever. Like, do you have that mindset of like because you're always pushing to do more? Are you like check that box, or are you like, yes, I did it? Are you like on to the next thing? That's a huge PR. Where are you at after that?
I think just still shocked. Like those first 10 minutes after crossing the finish line, I'm like, there's just no way. Like, did I actually go the 2:35? Also thinking, does my family know that I went that fast? Which there was live tracking. I know that they knew that, but yeah, just disbelief. And then after that, big celebration. Not like, oh, on to the next. Not
hmm
criticizing my race at all. I think I generally tend to be a very positive and optimistic person, or realist to optimist is where I would say somewhere between there. So yeah, nothing but positive feelings for that whole rest of the day.
Nice. I think the saying is I hate losing more than I like winning, which is not a great thing to have.
Well, have you been that way your whole life, or did it
Oh
just
yeah,
start? Oh, okay, okay.
board games, Mario Kart against my son, it doesn't matter. It's like that for everything, which work,
Oh
everything.
boy,
So it's
that's tough.
it's a tough way to live, but it keeps me trying different things and moving forward. After that race, after New York, um, let's talk about Reddit. And
Oh,
yeah, so give me some context. So from what I understand, people thought first. I think first thing I saw was people thought you were writing your own Reddit threads or something. Is that how this all started?
yeah. Which is hilarious because to tell you the truth, I was confused for a while what Reddit even was. I'm like, I still
hmm
don't get it. Is it like for video games? I just didn't understand that it was like just you could have a thread for anything.
hmm
But after I did that first podcast ever called the Marathon Podcast with Christian Warwick, and then people caught the bug about some of my training, people had done such fantastic research about me that they thought someone writing this detailed about Felicia Pasadyn must be her. Like it has to be her. But I don't have, come on, I'm a med student. I'm interviewing for residency,
hmm
physician opportunities. Like I have so much going on in the wake of the marathon. There's no way I'm sitting on Reddit writing about myself.
Yeah. Are you? They pull it all from Strava, or where are they getting your information from?
I have a
Who knows?
large internet, just a generally large internet presence from all of my athletics.
Okay.
Because like every year from a bio at Harvard or OSU or even back like in the Medina County Gazette where I was born and raised, there was a lot of info about me. And then I think if you Google my social media then to see more recent things,
hmm
I'm public. So with all of that aggregated, like you can even look up Felicia Pasadyn on Google and then click like an AI summary of me, and it'll give you like 4 paragraphs of my entire basically life story. So I think you can get a lot of details from me just on the internet.
Okay. So someone accused you of writing your own Reddit thread, and then I feel like it's continuing to snowball with critiques and judgments. And has it been more positive or more negative? Have you found, or has it been even?
No, by far more positive, by far.
Okay.
I think like I actually think it's really funny when people criticize me for running too low of mileage or say that that's like just not, oh, she could be so much faster if she did it this way. Because my thought is like, I think I'm doing pretty well and I'm injury
Yeah.
free and I'm happy and running is still novel to me and I enjoy it. So kind of just let me do my thing. And even when I draw attention to any even small negative comment, it's like inundated with hundreds of people being like, do your thing, girl. Like, don't worry
Yeah,
about the
good.
internet trolls. Like, people are so supportive. And I get a lot. I mean, my direct messages are flooded with people saying, you inspired me to cross train. You inspired me to try the Stairmaster. Or like, I used to be a cardio girl only and now I strength train just like you. So it's been honestly very supportive.
All right, good. The everything that I've seen it reminds me of like people sitting on their couch who like are judging people in the NFL for dropping passes and they're just
Yeah.
like throwing chips in their mouth and they're like, "Oh, what a loser," and like
Yeah.
doing all those things. So that's what my mind goes to when I read those things. And then I just know like, as I think the saying is the tallest trees catch the most wind, which is like you get some success, you get, and then there's obviously people just coming to knock you at the knees and try to chop you down. But
Yeah.
it's good to know that, especially it's always best when, just other people are coming to your defense, which means you don't have to do anything. But it can definitely wear on you. So I don't know, you know, how do you, as you continue to be more out there, do you feel like you're going to have to moderate that at some point? Or does it like, nah, that doesn't bug me at all?
It really doesn't bother me because I mean it's inconsequential. Like I'm not going to change my training because someone on Reddit or letsrun.com suggested I do try a few weeks at 100 miles. Like
Yeah.
I'm not going to change anything. And also I'm thinking like the person who wrote that, do you even do 100-mile weeks? Like I'd like to see. You can show me your Strava and then we'll take a look at it. I honestly think if anything, where I need to set better boundaries is like in my direct messages, people will ask questions that are sometimes overly invasive
Hmm.
or like, oh, record your workout classes. And I'm thinking, okay, well, there's other members of the workout class who don't want to be recorded and like I want to respect their privacy. Or people always asking, oh, right, what's everything you eat in a day? Like for a week, we will all want to know. And I'm like, okay, at some point, I want to be technology free. I want to be present with
Sure.
my family meals. So I think the more one-on-one interactions, I could be better about setting boundaries rather than like any of the hate comments because those are few and far between anyway.
Yeah. Interesting you brought up the fueling side because I actually was curious on your approach to that, like in a marathon or on these long sessions. Are you dialed in? Are you a little loose with it? I know that people that are counting grams of carbohydrate and things and know exactly how much is in their bottles. Um,
Mhm.
how are you on like the fueling side?
So, as far as, for example, like the carb loading the days up to the marathon, I'm like fully aware that carb loading, you actually need to do it correctly. It's way more carbs than you would even want to eat.
Hmm.
But I'm thinking I should get as close as I possibly can because if evidence-based randomized control trials show that carb loading individuals perform better in marathons than those who did not properly carb load, then I want to be in this cohort over here who performed better. So I use a combination of what works for me, aka like foods that I like to eat, foods that work for my tummy, whatever, in combination with AI. And I use a lot of Chat GPT to help me generate grams of carbs and example meals with like trade-ins in case I don't have, oh, this whole wheat pita bread. Like, what if I don't
Hmm.
have that? Can you give me an example? So that's what I do like the days leading up to a big race. And then for morning of, I have it down to a T pretty much. Not in the exact necessarily food, but in the grams of carbs. That way I can be mentally reassured, like, sure, last time I had banana bagel waffle. Today I had applesauce, toast, granola, but I know that either way it was 120 grams of carbs the morning before. And same with gels. Like, am I married to a brand? Am I married to whether it be gel, chew, liquid Gatorade? No, but I know that like about every half hour, I like to have like 22 grams of carbs in any way. So I would say like somewhere between a type A and type B, and that on race day I try to keep it free and loose, but at least of what I can control of the evidence-based aspects, make sure I'm hitting like the actual calculation.
Yeah, you got to be careful with chat and math. Sometimes it'll throw the math off. It's getting better.
Mm-hmm.
The From what I've seen on the research side is usually like you can carb load 90 minutes of exercise if you're fully
Mm-hmm.
like topped off, and then after that, you need to replenish because you only have 90 minutes. I've seen people what I see a lot of people doing is like a gel an hour, which is not enough at all. But
Right, no.
like, are you taking? Maybe you mentioned it? Do you know how much you're taking an hour like through that race?
Like about every half hour, I take between 20 and 24 grams of carbs.
Okay. Yeah, what I'm seeing and look this up and be more specific with it, but like that's 60, 80, even up to 100 grams an hour is what you're seeing people do. The 100 is like ultra marathon, elite. They're running 100 miles. There's actually, I don't know if you saw this. The world record was set for 100K. Did you see this?
Oh, yes, that
The
man.
average 5:55 a mile for 100K or for 60 miles.
Yeah, it's like unbelievable what humans can do, really.
Yeah. So I'm seeing like a lot of that be up around that 80 grams an hour for like marathoning. And then interestingly, which freaked a lot of people out when I talked to them. So I talked to some Kenyans and when they was at a race, and how do you guys like take that much? And like, actually, we actually just hold the gel in our mouth and we just drink it occasionally. I'm like, oh my God. Like it freaks me out. Like, cause like I got to get it in and out. I have a sip of water and just swallow it. But like, I just run with a mouthful of gel and I, tincture it in as I'm running. And I'm like, oh my God, maybe they're not all doing that, but,
I mean, whatever works. That's what I say. Whatever works for you. For me, I don't do that, but hey, they go faster than I do, so by all means.
Yeah. Wait, when you look at like your racing and stuff, like what are you working on actively? Are you working on dialing certain things in? Do you feel like where's your biggest opportunity? Because you're getting there, and now like I feel like there's going to come maybe not, but there's a point where it gets harder to get incrementally faster. And then you start after tweaking things and finding opportunity. Are you self-aware of where those things are at? Are you actively working towards things where you're like, I think the most meat on the bone is here?
Yeah, I think I'm very lucky because I have very particular areas I need to work on. If we're talking about the marathon, I think that is just time developing base mileage, as in just being a runner through age 26, I'll be better off than I am right now. Even if my training isn't as prime as when I'm eventually a doctor in June 2026, my training is not going to be as good, of course. But just adding that base mileage, I think that's going to help the marathon. But that's patience and time. The more active thing I can do is I haven't done intervals since high school, as in like where you start with like a goal pace. I just don't really do that.
You're doing a lot of threshold, you said?
Yes, almost all of my runs are just threshold, like as hard as I can for all the 7 miles, or the last 4, try to hit sub-marathon pace, or sprint up every hill, like more like that, kind of just never stopping, because the start to me waste time in precious time in my day when a lot of it is filled with academic things, and I only have a small 2.5 hours a day to work out. So I really have to take advantage of everything. But I have 3 10Ks that is important to me and that I want to do well in between January and June of this coming year. And I actually do want to begin to do more intervals where, you do take little breaks to hit 10K pace instead of just doing everything threshold and tempo like I currently do. So speed work, and then be better about strides. I don't really always do those after. Like I always just end the last mile of everything hard, which is not the same as like actually hitting 10K pace. So speed work and intervals are the big thing I know I can improve on, because right now there's 0. So even adding 1 day a week would be better. Yeah.
I'm imagining just like the time crunch you have. Are you like in the car, you shower, you're in the car just sweating because like you had to get showered and get in the car and go to the hospital?
Like, I am not joking that in the month of October, my day looked like this. Wake up, 4. Start workout, 4:15. Cardio until about 6. Strength train, 6 to 6:40. And then I give myself 6:40 to 6:50 to shower, eat while I walk to work, and then I'd be standing in the Veterans Affairs Hospital on the general medicine wards before 7 a.m.
Are you like pouring sweat, or like you're not, like your body already cooled off? I'd be like sweating for like 2 hours after the shower.
Well, okay, post shower and then like walking, so I don't have a car in New York City. No one in Manhattan really, well, not many people in Manhattan my age have a car. So the walk through the October weather would be sort of my cool down. Yeah.
You're going, your plan is to become a radiologist, right?
Yes.
And then choosing that field out of all the medicine, is there something that drew you to that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, a couple reasons. I've always really liked anatomy, and that's a huge part of radiology. You literally have to know anatomy of the entire body.
Hmm.
It's also a very self-disciplined specialty, like read these scans, and you can make a super real difference in the life of both the patient and the clinician because finding a certain pathology and communicating that to the physician who will then tell that to the patient kind of makes you essential to the entire hospital functioning. The final one is when I fell in love with radiology specifically and knew it was for me, I was working with a breast radiologist, and breast radiology is incredible because you have a mix of getting to do both breast biopsies and aspirations as well as reading scans. So it's half procedural, half more like that self-discipline reading through the scans type thing. And the cancer, the question of asking, does this woman have breast cancer or not, and her even wondering that in her own head, early detection, that's radiology is the biggest component to that. So being able to make that real difference in their life is so important to me.
Yeah.
And so that's what I see for myself.
Where do you see with like AI going through that? I know AI is doing a lot of image reading. They're kind of tuning that up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like that's going to, and I saw research the other day, like they're not stopping hiring radiologists. They're hiring more than ever because they can read
Yes.
images faster. They can make clinical decisions faster. Have you had interaction? I'm just curious. Have you had interactions with using AI in
Mm-hmm.
radiology, or is it being taught at this point, or is it more like in clinic you're getting taught how it's working?
So right now, AI is definitely not replacing the radiologist. I do want to say that's a huge myth at the moment because
Hmm.
diagnostic radiologists are it's booming because CTs and MRIs are happening so much quicker than ever. We need more radiologists. But I have seen it, for example, let's say that a radiologist needs to read 40 scans today. And one of them is a fracture of the fourth metatarsal, and one of them is pediatric necrotizing enterocolitis, which could potentially kill an infant. AI can help triage scans so that the radiologist reads the more urgent, life threatening ones first, and the ones where the 16-year-old in the office hears that she has a fracture an hour or two later, right? That's not life or death. It's important, but it's
That one
so
that's going to go tell her coach that she can't run and then try to muscle through it.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So for AI to be able to say these are the five most important scans for you to start your day with today is really helpful. Another place it's being used is to tailor resident physician education. For
Hmm.
example, if a resident physician is oftentimes missing like this bowel ischemia, but they're nailing appendicitis, then maybe you can tailor and personalize the education where the educational scans that aren't real patients but are just helping the resident get ready for boards and eventually become an attending physician, give them more of what they're weaker at. Which I love that idea. I love the idea of hammering home your weak spots. Because, yeah, if I'm good at reading an appendicitis already, I don't need 18 appendicitis scans per day.
Sure.
Um, yeah, and then and to the question about like, am I worried that as a future breast radiologist, will AI take my job? Until we find a robot who's doing aspirations and biopsies and comforting the woman who is scared whether or not she has breast cancer and is finding out today, it's not going to be taken. It's a very, very important job. So I feel secure.
Yeah, I feel like most of it, what we're seeing, I always joke that PT side people are always like, the whole thing is AI taking your job. We're like the blue collar of medicine. We're like really hands on. We're working with
Hmm.
patients and that. And I feel like for everything that I've seen, it's just been supplementing all the things that
Yes.
you maybe don't love about medicine, like the notes, the paperwork. You can get a lot of assistance
Hmm.
there, so you can spend more time with patients. And I'm sure it's going to eventually evolve into everyone's checking everyone's AI, and then it's gonna we're gonna need some kind of middle ground. But even in this instance, like triaging, helping make clinical decisions, things they maybe weren't thinking of, or you kind of get into these biases, and you can have a critical standpoint of like other things to consider. I think it's really just going to support a lot of these different fields, especially in medicine.
Hmm. Right. Like I'm sure maybe you've had someone say to you, well, how do you feel about the fact that if I wanted, I could write 23-year-old girl with Achilles tendinosis for this long, write me a PT plan for it to get better in the next 6 weeks. And now I didn't pay any PT to tell me this plan that I'm going to adhere to. Like in my opinion, I that's missing everything a PT does. What about dry needling, shockwave, massage,
Hmm.
Graston? Like, so what are your responses to someone who poses you that question?
Yeah, so I do think it's interesting because, I've been PT for 15 years, and I think of, there's certain people when I work, especially when I work with runners, like I always joke that my issue isn't compliance. Like I have an over compliance issue with my patients. I tell them to do 10, they do 40. It's supposed to be twice a week. They do it 3 times a day. Just in general, runners are overly compliant. If 10's good, 100's great. I think there's a certain type of person that's going to be, hey, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Certainly there's the hands-on things that you can go in for, make sure the plan's right. I think the biggest, one of the biggest job securities in the United States for PT is that people need accountability. Like if people wanted to exercise, they would just do it. And honestly, no one wants to exercise. You'd be shocked how many people need PT to stay accountable, to adjust plans. So I really think that is where we're going to come in is, adjusting plans, holding accountable, because, I can tell you from a profession standpoint, you can give someone the exact blueprint of what they need to do, and then they won't do it. So,
That's such a good point. Yeah. And patients don't like to hear that. They do not like to hear that in general, patients are not compliant, but it's very true.
Yeah. I think when I talk to them, they're like, I'm like, hey, you can come in a couple of weeks and I'll just update this for you. I think it's going to take a couple of weeks to heal. This Achilles, these are the things you need to do. And my runners will probably take it and be like, sure. And then I'll have majority of patients, if they're not like I'll call quote unquote exercisers, they're active, but they'll be like, I'm going to come next week because I need to make sure I'm doing these right. I want to make sure that there's anything we want to add and all these things. So they like the hand holding part of that. And they certainly, like, everyone loves manuals. So hands-on work, whether it's placebo or not, like there's research that says just touching a patient will improve their outcomes. So, but yeah, so I think from an AI standpoint, like we're just seeing a lot of benefits on the clerical work, like the billing, the note writing, the engagement things and suggestions. But, we're in a country where majority of people don't exercise. So they use us as that accountability tool.
Yeah.
I can just see you as a radiologist though. Like, hopefully you don't have to do this, but like, I need my ankle looked at. I'm going to stick my ankle in this machine and
be able to use it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
When we look at, it's just so many things happening with AI, but when you look at moving forward after New York, you had a marathon in March. I'm assuming you're not doing that one.
No, yeah. I emailed them and said, no, I won't be coming.
Which one was it?
It was called the McCurdy something marathon.
Okay. So what does 2026 look like for you? Olympics, the marathon is not the American race. When is that? They haven't set the date yet, or have they?
So it's February 2028 is the U.S. Olympic trials for the marathon.
And
they
the
just haven't
qualifiers.
set the location. Yeah. And then, of course, LA, for the top 3 women from there will go to LA and compete in the Rio Olympics.
Gotcha. So between now and then, what's have you got a game? You're a planner. So what's the plan?
My long-term game plan is to do 2 world marathon majors a year until 2028. That way, at least 4 more times, I'm exposing myself to extremely competitive women on a big stage with potentially people that I will actually compete against on the day of trials, and just hitting my goals like every 6 months, making sure I'm building up, getting that base mileage. So that's like the long-term plan. My more short, medium-term plan, I guess, say over the next 6 months, is to race as much as I can before I'm a doctor, because I know the minute I'm a doctor, my schedule is going to be crazy, because resident doctors are underpaid, overworked for sure. Yeah. And that's definitely going to hamper my current training schedule, which is a bit more flexible as a student, a little bit.
Have you picked majors for next year or not yet?
Yes, Boston and Chicago
are
the 2 you will be seeing me at in 2026.
Awesome. I'll be at Chicago Redemption after I had the worst blow up there last year, which was was ugly.
Were you able to finish?
Yeah, but it was definitely not a mental. My mental health was definitely struggling. So I came around a turn, someone stopped on a hard turn. I jumped, I felt my Achilles go. And then before I knew it, I was doing an old man shuffle, my back locked up. But I did like a 10K, probably the slowest. I've done all 50-mile ultras faster than my 10K. It was like one of those ones where I'm like, I just hope like I fall down and they can just cart me off to the side. We ended up finishing,
Oh.
but it was rough. So we're going back for some redemption there.
No, but major kudos to you for finishing though, because I honestly think like something like that would just mentally take people, okay, I'm just gonna lay on the course and not finish.
I told my wife, this sounds terrible. I told her, like, honestly, my mental state for the last 10K of that race was I was hoping a car would just make a wrong turn and just like,
Oh no,
not
no, no,
like do any
no.
damage, but like, can you just like nick me and let me just
Yeah,
have a reason to
yeah.
stop running at this point? So I did that one, and then I went for redemption in Berlin, and then it was way too hot. And I knew like this is the first time ever I was at 10K into a race, and I'm like, I am way too warm
Hmm.
for being 6 miles into this race. So, anyways, it didn't go ideal, but we're coming back around. I'm curious. So, as we kind of wrap up, and I appreciate your time. I feel like there's going to come a point where, like you mentioned, residency. How have you mentally prepared for that, like that give and take at all, as far as how you're gonna manage that and know keep your training at a high level, or if one has to suffer, obviously, you're not going to be suffering with patients. Like how what have you thought about that with that?
Just that
Take it as it
I didn't
comes.
think I could do it in medical school, and then I did, and then I didn't think I'd do it during like rotations, and I did. Um, so that I will do it, and I don't know what it's gonna look like, but that I'll make it work. And also, let's be honest, like of what I hear for radiology residency, there might be months or sets of 6 weeks that are very, very intense and difficult, but never it is like a whole year of 6 12-hour hospital shifts where it's just brutal. Like maybe a month of that and then a month back to like 6 10 9 hour shifts, a little bit more
Hmm.
reasonable. And again, I say that realizing that still kind of sounds like a lot compared to the average 40-hour work week, but this is the life I've chosen for myself. And that the main thing is what you kind of were hinting at was my whole life I've wanted to be a doctor, and so I'll never let that side suffer. I really won't. Like that's one of my biggest passions, and the way that I think that I'll make the biggest difference in the
Hmm.
world. And I love it. I do love learning, and I've always been a very curious person. So I'm planning to enjoy residency, take it as it comes, and then just fill in my training as hard as I possibly can.
Yeah, I think if anything you've proven, like you're gonna find ways to do it. I'm really so much this has to be related back to sleep, just being able to recharge and reset with that,
Hmm.
and being diligent with it. I mean, that's a sacrifice in itself sometimes, but I feel like the sleep has got to be at play of why you're able to manage all these things.
Yeah, definitely. Like my med school friends sometimes will like catch up for a picnic like midday or something and we'll be chatting. What did you do this morning? And I'm like, oh, like I woke up, I ran 10 miles, I went on the Stairmaster for 45 minutes, I lifted, I went to the farmer's market grocery store, I FaceTimed my family, and now I'm here. And they're like, how? It's like 11:30 right now. It's 11:30 a.m. I'm like, because last night and all the nights before I got 10 hours of sleep. Like, I genuinely think a lot of our lives and mental health and physical fitness would be better if we all prioritize sleep. So that can't be understated.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Couple quick questions as we're wrapping up on just curious. I wanted to hit you with some quick hitters. Um,
Hmm.
Music or no music while running?
Oh, I listen to music.
Do you
Yeah.
ever not run
After
with
being
music?
deprived, well, in high school, cross country and track, there was never any music. So then once I first started running on my own, I'm like, oh, this is kind of nice.
What do you listen to?
Just like
Everything?
old bangers from like 2010. Yeah.
Training alone or with others?
Since most of my training is at 4 a.m. and I can't recruit people alone, unfortunately. But in a perfect world, others.
Others.
Yeah.
Favorite comfort food?
Oh, that's a good one. I really like bread. Like I eat a lot of toast, pita. Like I
Yeah,
just love anything with bread.
there you go. And you got your carbs right there. So there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
And then finally, if you had to take a month off, like how are you filling that void?
A month off of what?
No running, not getting up at 4 a.m.
Oh, hmm.
How would you be knitting? What would you be up to?
So I do knit and I bake a
Oh,
lot because
there
I
we go.
love. So if you're asking like I'm playing on other hobbies,
Yeah.
I love playing cards with friends. We do like board game and game nights, potlucks, and I love to bake. So that's usually what I bring. And I like to not measure when I bake and just make my own recipes. So that's fun. And then I love knitting and reading. So I would do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I love chatting with you. I'm super excited to see where things go. I'm just really impressed with just, you know, where you come from. You're obviously a trajectory. And honestly, I had the conversation the other day with someone about the Stairmaster because I was talking with you and I was looking into it. And it makes complete sense. I was talking to my wife about this who can't tolerate high mileage. We're like, oh, should we get a Stairmaster? So I know you're looking for sponsors. Maybe Stepper will come in and bring you under their wing or something. But
I did recently, actually. They reached out to me and sent me a ambassador form. Stairmaster did,
nice.
but they haven't answered the form. But it's only been a few days, so we'll see.
Oh, there we go. Nice. It's set up. It's teed up.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing what you do in the next year or so.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Early Miles. This podcast is ad-free and made possible by the runners who support the RunSmart app. RunSmart is a training platform built by physical therapists who run with an injury prevention first approach. Inside the app, you get personalized running plans, strength and mobility work designed specifically for runners, and guidance that adapts to your life, training, and body change over time. RunSmart's mission is simple: to build lifelong runners. If you're looking to train smarter and support the show, you can download the RunSmart app to get started. And a quick but important note, this podcast is for general educational and informational purposes only. Nothing discussed here should be considered medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional regarding injury, pain, or any medical condition. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on Early Miles.